I think it's respectable to say that with Aaron Rodgers and Cam Robinson being the top available free agents, the peak of free agency is past. With that being said, where do the teams go in the draft now? Let's dive right into it. Tennessee picking first overall is intriguing as they still have their options even after free agency. They still have a hole at edge rusher and corner, opening the room for Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. But I'm keeping the same belief I've had all draft season, with Miami quarterback Cam Ward being my selection for Tennessee at first overall. As I'm recording this video, Malik Collins is the only impact free agent that Cleveland signed, so all options are still on the table here. Once you get into the trades though, Kenny Pickett kind of eliminates quarterback as an option. Not saying Pickett is starting caliber, but him having 1 year left on his contract gives off the idea that this may be a rental to skip to the stacked 2026 quarterback class. So I still have Cleveland taking Abdul Carter with the second overall pick. I almost feel bad for the Giants as free agents don't even want to go there. Despite that, Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson are still on the board, and to be different than I was before, I'm going to say the Giants get one of them. That gives the team much more flexibility at third overall, and this could be a huge spot for the Giants to get Travis Hunter. I think offensive line is possible as well, but I also think Hunter is too good to pass up here. He's the pick at number 3. I'm going to follow the trend of McMillan falling away from New England, and with Hunter off the board as well, I get to have fun with this pick. The Patriots picked up 5 new defensive starters according to our lads, and the team got Morgan Moses. But there's still a massive hole at offensive tackle. I thought Caden Wallace could be the starter here, but others feel to disagree. But LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell could also be a guard at the next level, and he is going to be my pick at 4th overall. I've been on the train of Will Johnson to Jacksonville at number 5, but after the Jaguars built their secondary through free agency, I think this pick becomes more clear. I still am questioning giving this team Mason Graham. After all, they did draft 2 defensive tackles in the 2024 draft, and Davon Hamilton still exists. But come around to it, I didn't like those picks last year anyways. So yeah, I'm not too confident in giving the Jags Mason Graham, but they'll get him anyway. Despite the Las Vegas Raiders extending Max Crosby and slightly building their defense through free agency, I still think there are holes there to fill at 6th overall. I also am not fond of Ramel Caton apparently being a starting receiver. Ashton Genty is also a possibility despite the team getting Raheem Mostert. I'm torn here for Vegas, but I think snagging a first-round cornerback could be huge for this squad, so give me Michigan corner Will Johnson at number 6. Aaron Rodgers is out, Justin Fields is in. I don't like the value for New York in terms of Fields, but that knocks quarterback off the board for 7th overall. But there are still some holes on this offensive line, which did rank top 15 last year, but they lost both Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. I think drafting Mizzou offensive tackle Armand Membao gives New York flexibility, as he could play right tackle, or I even think he could take the Peter Skoronski route and start his career on the inside. He's the pick here. I've always thought Carolina at number 8 was interesting, and yeah, it still is. But I'm going to go the same route as I did last time. They could really use an edge rusher after trading Brian Burns, as seen in their dead last PFF rank in pass rush last season. In Mock 4, they took Mykel Williams. In Mock 5, they took James Pierce Jr. And in Mock 6, I have them taking Georgia's Jalen Walker, who could also play blitzing linebacker if need be. I think this pick becomes clear for New Orleans if the board plays out this way. They've made a couple intriguing signings, but even without those, wide receiver is this team's biggest need. Chris Olave is constantly hurt, Rashid Shaheed is recovering from a meniscus injury, and the next best guy is Bub Means. So Arizona wideout Tetairoa McMillan becomes that clear choice at 9th overall. The Chicago Bears had a dream free agency. Offensive line was the clear direction for them in the draft. That was until they went out and got Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson to fill the interior holes. It's time for the Bears to shift toward a different direction. A direction that Ben Johnson had in Detroit that gave defenses nightmares. I like DeAndre Swift switching to more of a change of pace role, and the Bears draft Ashton Jeanty at 10th overall. For the people that watch me consistently, let's take a look at the San Francisco 49ers offensive line, and they signed nobody. Once again, that opens the door for them to take a lineman at this pick. But I'm going to switch it up for once and give them a defensive lineman, so they don't have to start Evan Anderson and Yetur Gross-Matos. I think that's how you say it. They pick up a stock riser in Texas A&M edge rusher Shamar Stewart at 11th overall. The Cowboys fortunately miss out on Jeanty, which has been my pick to them for a while now. I think there are more possibilities, but there's a great scheme fit sitting here for them at 12th overall. I think I'm seeing some mixed options on Texas cornerback Jahdae Barron, but he fits well with the Dallas scheme, and the one DB spot that needs help in the secondary is in the nickel. As a result, Barron is my pick for Dallas this time around. No, I'm still not sold on Miami taking an offensive lineman. It's 13th overall. They signed another offensive tackle. They have Patrick Paul already, and Tyler Booker is the complete opposite of a scheme fit. So I'm going to go in the same direction as I did last time, and I'm sorry for not being different, but it's so hard to pass up on Georgia safety Malachi Starks at this spot. He goes off the board at 13. I'm also not going to be different with Indianapolis either. At the time of me writing this script, the 4 offensive free agents the Colts have signed are Daniel Jones, Khalil Herbert, Ajo, and Luke Tenuta. There's still a receiving threat that needs to be on this roster, which is where Penn State tight end Tyler Warren comes in. I think they have good development options at receiver, and multiple guys could step up there this season. Tight end? Not so much. The offensive free agents that Atlanta signed are even more underwhelming, but that's not the direction I'm going in for here. While they did go out and get Leonard Floyd in free agency, him and Arnold Ebiketie are not the 2 options you want at that position. I think this draftee and Braylon Trice could be a very good pass rush duo for years to come, as Georgia edge rusher Mykel Williams is the pick here. Similarly to Carolina, this is the 3rd different edge rusher I've given them in my 3 mocks since the end of the regular season. Arizona is a tough team to draft for at 16th overall, as the team has done a good job filling in gaps during free agency. I think I was looking for defensive line or edge rusher, but the signings of Dalvin Tomlinson and Josh Sweat make me pivot elsewhere. I'm going to go the same offensive line route as before, instead taking the first surefire interior guy off the board in Alabama guard Tyler Booker. He's the pick here at 16. Cincinnati was also an option for Booker, but they have to go elsewhere at 17th overall. Nonetheless, I think there's a much bigger need after the departure of Sam Hubbard and the potential trade of Trey Hendrickson. On top of that, the edge rusher pot in this draft is deep, and only 3 of them have gone off the board so far. At this point, you pick for scheme fit, and Marshall edge rusher Mike Green is very similar to Trey Hendrickson. Another team that could have used Booker, but there is also a massive stock riser that has fallen into Seattle's laps. I want to focus in on the linebacker spot, which I thought would be a bit weak after consensus agreed that Jalen Walker was an edge rusher. But Alabama's Jahad Campbell is available here, and he's my pick to Seattle at 18. When it comes to Tampa Bay, I think they should center in on the defense. The secondary would be nice to buff, but you would be kind of reaching for someone here. Instead, they take advantage of a phenomenal defensive line class and select Tennessee edge rusher James Pierce Jr. at 19, stopping his skid. The Broncos got their tight end, and I don't think there is a running back to reach for here at 20, so wide receiver will be the pick. Only a couple have gone off, giving Denver several options to work with. I think I'm going to get them their 3rd different wideout in the last 3 mocks, this time handing them Matthew Golden out of Texas. Pittsburgh is stuck at the quarterback position. They currently have Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson at this position, and while I've said before they could get Jalen Milroe later down the line, it's hard to pass up on Colorado signal caller Shadur Sanders with him falling this far. He's the pick at 21. This is going to stay same old basic, as the Chargers are in an even worse spot at the tight end position. Will Dissly is not a number 1, and Tucker Fisk is a glorified fullback. So Colston Loveland out of Michigan is once again the pick here for LA at 22. The Green Bay Packers haven't made many impact signings, but the big one I'm focused in on is Nate Hobbs. That puts them one step closer to having a good secondary. They will continue to build that later on. Instead, taking a defensive lineman here with Donovan Ezeraku being the pick at 23. I love making mock drafts not just after free agency, but also after the combine. The stock risers begin to show, and with Minnesota at 24, there's one in particular that I've been on for a while. With the team needing safety, I gotta go with South Carolina's Nick Emanwari at this pick. There are still so many great players down the board here, and one of them gets picked to Houston after they traded away Laramie Tunsil and Kenyon Green. There are 2 great tackles still on the board, and they take one of them in hometown guy Kelvin Banks Jr. He goes 25th overall. Just for context, I recorded this before the Cam Robinson signing, so I apologize, but I'm going to keep it. The Texans still need offensive line help, and maybe Banks starts as a guard, or maybe he just backs up Titus Howard for a year. I don't know. We'll see. Another team that traded an offensive lineman in the LA Rams after they traded away guard Jonah Jackson to the Bears. Although Jackson is not an offensive tackle, they still decide to pick one here to prepare for Rob Havenstein's future departure. They get Ohio State tackle Josh Simmons at 26. Similarly to the Rams, the Baltimore Ravens could get an offensive tackle to prep for Ronnie Stanley's departure. Instead, they go a different route and try to stunt their disappointing history of drafting edge rushers. They go with Texas A&M's Nick Scorton, but Ohio State guard Donovan Jackson was my pick for a while. People are going to disagree with this selection, but I have my reasons. The Detroit Lions will be without a big chunk of coaches, but luckily they retained a big chunk of players, and they don't have a lot of genuine holes on this roster. So they pick for best available player and give Jared Goff another option here, and stop the skid of Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. With 4 teams left, I just want to thank y'all for making it this far. Subscribe for more draft content. Anyway, I've had a sneaky path for Washington at 29. I think they could use some secondary help, as I'm not sure how well Lattimore will play out, and Sainristil still is not playing his natural position. On top of that, Noah Igbenogany is not a starter. So with pick 29, the Commanders snag combine riser Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. I'll spoil something here really quick. Mizzou wide receiver Luther Burden falls out of the first round in this mock draft. I had him to the Bills for a while, but they also would have probably wanted Maxwell Hairston at this point. Instead, they fill in for Larry Ogunjobi's 6-game suspension and take Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant at 30th overall. This is why it sucks not doing mock trades in these, because the Kansas City Chiefs would probably trade up to stop the fall of Kenneth Grant. Instead, they pivot to a different defensive tackle, one that is much more elusive in Ole Miss's Walter Nolan, so he's the pick here at 31. The Philadelphia Eagles round out this mock draft, and it's so hard to draft for them because there's a reason they won the Super Bowl. I'm going to go with a trendy pick for the Eagles and buff up the trenches on the defensive side with Oregon defensive tackle Derek Harmon, meaning 3 defensive tackles round out this CKJ mock draft 6.0. Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.